When you're watching a movie that's just over an hour long, you need oodles of caffeine to get through it, man. Actually, the YouTube print of She Done Him Wrong that I saw is 4 minutes shorter than the DVD version is supposed to be, so I had to absolutely load up on coffee to get through this one. Okay, that's a crock, obviously, but maybe your attention span is like Doug from Up, squirrel! So you could use some liquid help that I did not, because I was lying. Spark Plug Coffee can be exactly the help you need, and that's not a lie. They have the freshest beans in Canada, and those premium, fairly traded Arabica beans will show up at the door of Canadians and Americans within 1 week of ordering. Those of us north of the border will even get that order shipped for free. Sparkplug has all kinds of blends and roasts. They even have a rotation of seasonal blends. If you're a decaf girl or a half-calf boy, they can help you out. But I've got a not-so-shameful secret for you. Becoming a member of the Autopilot Coffee Club will save you money on every single order. There's a perk, Spider. You can customize your membership and, if need be, pause or even cancel anytime. Go to sparkplug.coffee/HYES to rack up a savings of 20% on your next order. Now, Andrew Luther, why don't you come up sometime and play that theme song? And action. Have you ever seen She Done Him Wrong, which I've ever seen twice. Hello there, film friends, and thanks for firing up the 488th episode of the Classic Movies Podcast, now known as Have You Ever Seen? I'm your monologuing host, Ryan Ellis. My wife Bev and I called this show the Top 100 Project from March 2013 until the end of 2022. A change was overdue since the name stopped making sense about 7 years ago, so here we are. If you haven't seen She Done Him Wrong and don't want it spoiled for you, well, you need to know that I'm about to do just that, and I'll be doing it alone. Me posting a solo show every other Friday has become a regular thing, so I'll be ticking through this film's plot today all by myself. She Done Him Wrong premiered 90 years ago on this very day, January 27th, 1933. Then it was released by Paramount in the second week of February. This film did extremely well at the box office. Wikipedia says it made $2.2 million on a budget of 200,000 clams. The critical reception has been terrific over the years, too. 90% of critics on Rotten Tomatoes have given it a good review, 29 critics have reviewed it, and their average score is 7.6 out of 10. However, only 52% of audiences on Rotten Tomatoes liked it. Spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert, I'm with the audiences. She Done Him Wrong was up for one Oscar, Best Picture. Grand Hotel, which we reviewed last year, came out the year before this did, and was also only nominated in that one category, although Grand Hotel won Best Picture. She Done Him Wrong was entered into the National Film Registry in 1996. Another Cary Grant film, The Awful Truth, also won in that year. Far better than this. As did The Deer Hunter, The Jazz Singer, MASH, and The Producers. We've covered all those films at one time or another on this channel, and many of them, in fact, I guess all but The Producers and The Awful Truth, are in the files back in the AFI days, meaning 2013, 2014, 2015. She Done Him Wrong was 75th on the American Film Institute's Top 100 Laughs. Some Like It Hot was number 1, and Mae West's Why Don't You Come Up Sometime and See Me was 26th on the Top 100 Quotes. The tune Frankie and Johnny was nominated for AFI's Top 100 Songs, while She Done Him Wrong was a nominee for both the 1998 and 2007 AFI Top 100 lists. So this movie could have been on the greatest films of all time lists one of those 2 years. Really. As for that ranking of Mae's quote, that's a little high. A lot high. 26th? It's a good line, and it's pretty famous, with film buffs at least. But should it be in the top 30 of the very best ever? Good God, no. So why did I choose to review this film that I obviously didn't like very much, all on my own here in the gloomy month of January? Just to cover Mae West. We never have before. She's considered an iconic star of the early days of the sound era. She's on AFI's list of the top 25 actresses. This is her most famous film, or it's at least her most lauded. So that's the reason, or those are the reasons. It's also a big reason I intend to do a Barbra Streisand film very soon, because we never have before. Let's do what I always do in these solo shows and detail our way through the story. This is a period picture and is set, for some reason, about 40 years earlier. So you see a lot of bikes, horses, and even horses' asses. Hilarious. Since this New York set film was made about a year before the infamous Hays Code came into effect, we see a lot of tight costumes and sexy curves in all their glory. Plus, Mae West's character doesn't know how to speak unless it's with a double entendre. If she's breathing, she's being suggestive. And I bet breathing wasn't easy in those ultra-tight outfits she has on. It says online that she was sewn into her costumes. We have a coffee sponsor, but maybe lay off coffee and other liquids if they have to do that to you during your working day. As for Mae West, we don't meet her character until around the 10-minute mark of this 64 or so minute movie. She plays Lady Lou, and while she didn't have a writing credit, the script is based on a play she wrote 5 years earlier. That was called Diamond Lil. Even though there wasn't yet the code we would know for a huge chunk of Hollywood's early history, meaning the censorship that banned us from hearing someone say the word nuts in It's Wonderful Life, or from showing us that married couples slept in the same fucking bed, Paramount couldn't call this movie Diamond Lil. I guess that was too suggestive. Diamond? If you don't get what the problem is there, just give it some thought. Although it's not the same thing as calling her Betty Bush or Tina the Tuna. She has her double entendres, I guess I get mine too. And it's not like this character doesn't love glass-cutting diamonds. The movie suggests, in fact, that that's pretty much all she cares about. That and fucking. And sometimes the well-being of other people, but not often. While we wait for West to make her semi-grand entrance, a bunch of guys drool over her babeliciousness in her saloon, the Bowery. To hear them tell it, she's hotter than 5 Rosario Dawsons and 9 Monica Bellucci's and 12 Super Bowls, all put together. Wait, remind me who wrote this play? Who was it? And is that a naked or at least a topless picture of Mae West hanging over the bar? Well, it's been said that this movie is a big reason the production code went into effect in 1934, so showing a woman's tits on screen was probably a good reason why. I don't have a problem with nudity in movies. In fact, I wish there was a lot more, but I can see why there would be pushback from showing it so openly 90 years ago. We live in a society of prudes in North America, and the odd thing is, in this part of the world, we're both obsessed with sex and terrified of sex. I'm not terrified. An infant-faced Cary Grant walks into the bar and argues with dirty Gus Jordan about how this young director of the mission next door, that's Cary Grant, is cramping Gus's joints style. Of course, we'll learn later on that old Archie Leach is an undercover federal agent who's out to bust Gus Jordan and all his criminal doings that have been a transpirin'. Supposedly, Lou doesn't know about any of these illegalities. That either means she's oblivious or stupid. And this character is not written to be anything other than sharp and on top of things. Sometimes literally. So I think she does know and just doesn't care. At the 10-minute mark, Mae West finally makes her first appearance. She rides in the back of a horse-drawn carriage and turns a bunch of heads. Who wrote this story again? Oh, right, the third most attractive woman in the cast. Oh, zing. Oh, mean, right? Oh, Ryan, how could you? Since the movie is nearly a quarter of the way into its running time and I hadn't laughed yet, surely an attempted suicide will have me slapping my knees, right? Yeah. A young woman named Sally walks in and tries to kill herself by, I think, drinking poison. But she gets knocked out by Lou's loyal thug Spider for her trouble. And then Lou cheers her up. She and the maid Pearl even dress Sally in Lou's clothes. Lou discovers that some guy done her wrong. Grammar teachers probably shudder when they think of this movie as it is. But I'm wondering who the she and the him are even supposed to be in She Done Him Wrong. It's not Sally. I assume those refer to Mae and Cary, but when exactly did she ever do anything wrong to him? My Cary Grant, gotta work on that. Gonna be better at it one day, maybe. Or maybe not. I'm 48 going on 49. I'm not gonna get better at these impressions. I said that West is not even the hottest woman in a movie where everyone lolls their tongues out like she's the face that launched 1,000 ships. Well, Raffaella Attiano certainly outranks West on the babe front. Attiano plays Russian Rita, who wants to give Sally a job singing, but that is a euphemism. I don't remember seeing Sally again later, so I assume we should believe her life got even worse by being forced into prostitution. And in fairness, I saw a slightly shorter print, so maybe they cut those scenes out. I was wide awake, so I didn't miss anything by being dozy. Maybe Sally likes raking in a few shekels for the thrill of servicing random dicks. But let's not forget this is a girl who wanted to kill herself. But why give a shit about her health and well-being, right? Something that should have bothered people even 90 years ago is when Lou calls Pearl 8-ball. Louise Beavers was, of course, black and played many a maid in her career, so just having to do that might have been demeaning enough. Although Hattie McDaniel said playing a maid in Gone with the Wind was better than having to be a maid for real, and they even gave the Hatster an Oscar for that performance. No one's ever called her the Hatster before, I'm sure. Beavers, a 30-year-old woman, 30, has the honor of calling everyone Miss or Mister, while no one shows her that same respect back. I find the way filmmakers made black actors in these roles grin ear to ear and say things like, "Yeah, sir," and "Oh, Miss Lou, you is the greatest in the whole wide world," to be even more racist than some white asshole doing blackface was. As terrible as putting makeup on your face and acting the fool was and is and always will be, having an actual black person having to be a low-IQ kiss-ass in nearly every role back then grinds my gears way more often. They're both bad. I think that's worse. Anyway, Lou gets changed while Spider talks to her about ex-boyfriend Chick. She's not spending enough time with him, apparently, which sounds like a tall task when we find out he's currently making his residence in prison. She can visit him more often, sure, but this movie is known for its double entendres, so clearly that's supposed to imply Chick wants Lou to gussy up her Louise Beavers for the occasion. Oh, I haven't done the nutshell yet, have I? Let's do that right now. So, She Done Him Wrong in a nutshell. She'll fuck anything that moves. And this bothers Chick enough to drive him bats. But we'll get back to that in a few minutes. By the way, in the scene where Spider talks to Lou in her dressing room, it's clear that Mae West was supposed to be fully naked for a minute or so. Yeah, she's behind a changing screen, and he can't see anything while he's sitting down, but the suggestion makes for a pretty lewd scene, even just to suggest she was wearing nothing at all. Nothing at all. Nothing at all, while a man is in the same room. Again, I'm not bothered by any of this, but I'm surprised they got away with it. Even before the strict production code would never allow something like that. About 1/3 of the way into the movie, Mae finally meets Cary and tells him his uniform fits him grand. She then gives him the famous "come up sometime and see me" line, but doggone it, he's busy every evening. Maybe she should have said they could have a nooner. She asks him again to come up sometime. I don't know why Cary Grant didn't do a big gulp right there. It seems like it would have fit the tone. Plus, I might have at least smiled if he did that. Alas, I did not smile. Cary Grant was a great comic actor. Too bad he didn't get to be funny in this movie. Lou does go to see Chick in jail, first stopping to talk to several different jailbirds in the cells next to his. Everybody knows this woman. Chick is doing time for stealing diamonds for Lou. Supposedly, she didn't know he was doing that. This woman conveniently never knows anything the men in her life are doing for her. Chick insists that the dastardly Dan Flynn made sure Chick is the one who did time. But how about this? Chick tells Lou he loves her, and not 2 minutes later he says he'll kill her if she double-crosses him or lets another man come between them again. I know when I tell Bev that I love her, I tend to threaten her life soon after. My Valentine's present to my wife will be to suggest she might not live to see February 15th. That got dark, didn't it? Well, so does this movie. It's right around the midpoint of the movie when the renowned singer finally sings on camera. The tune is "I Wonder Where My Easy Rider's Gone," which West sings adequately. She sounds like most other people who sang in movies did back in this era, really. Still, it gets a raucous ovation from the crowd. I guess the men were envisioning her singing into their microphones. Into their microphones. Eh, boy. Wait, who wrote this movie again? Who did it? Who came up with the story on Broadway? Dan Flynn is waiting in her room. He tells Lou that Gus is using Sally as a prostitute and that Gus would sell out Lou if he ever got arrested. And then, because this is supposedly a hilarious comedy, Flynn is the latest guy to threaten to harm some hairs on Lou's head. He even tries to blackmail her. Fortunately, Spider knocks on the door and prevents things from going bad for the curvy singer. Spider is always there to save the day. Man! Spider-Man. And here's Captain Cummings, who's Cary Grant, if I didn't say that already, asking about what happened to Sally. Lou gets Cummings to sit down, suggesting he loosen up, unbend, you'll feel better. Is that a very good voice? I don't think it is. I think she's talking about the captain's little corporal. They discuss her plethora of diamonds and how she values those more than her soul. I've seen a few movies in my life. Something tells me she's going to put her soul over her diamonds in the next half hour of runtime. Now see, I wrote that line down as I was watching the movie, but am I wrong? Does she ever actually do what always happens in these situations and change her ways? Diamonds are a Lou's only friend. Well, Spider. Chick breaks out of jail, and I didn't realize I would be covering 3 Prison Break movies this month. Out of Sight and the Defiant ones had Cons and the Lamb. Now this does. Of course, in the case of Clooney, Poitier, and Curtis, we liked them and rooted for them. Chick is a mite scary. He wants Lou to go off with him, but she won't, of course, so he gets violent, grabbing her in a chokehold for a few seconds. While you can pull off scenes like a choking one and make them fit into a comedy, they sure didn't pull it off in this movie. Look, I'll finish breaking down the plot, but I'm going to tell you that I didn't like this movie, and I don't think it's well made. I guess you got that already. There are too many genres crashing into each other, and I don't think Mae West had any range at all. Even Cary Grant seems pointless. I know it's 90 years ago, but Jesus Christ, people think these movies are so hilarious, and they're just not even funny, not even a little bit. You don't even smile. Anyway, Sergei offers Lou some jewels, and she's thrilled about that because, of course she is. He even tells her he loves her and would fucking die to make her happy. Wait, who wrote this movie again? Somebody else would die for her? But she handles that the way she handles everything else, with wisecracks. Jealous Rita walks in, sees what's going on, and is very pissed. As I said a while back, Rita is way hotter than Lou is, but especially in this scene. She's the one who should be using sex as a weapon. Maybe she does too. Maybe they both are. Rita takes a swing at the back of Lou's head and says she's going to kill her. Comedy! But it's Rita who gets accidentally stabbed when they struggle over a knife, and Rita dies. Gus and a cop walk in, but Lou covers for Rita's manslaughter by brushing her hair over her face, meaning Rita's hair over Rita's face, acting like she's just working out some kinks. We've seen people pull off this kind of scene before. Think of Gene Wilder in Young Frankenstein pretending that the dead body's hand is his own when he's confronted by a cop on the street. That was ghoulish, okay, yeah, but it was also funny. Lowell Sherman either couldn't direct the laughs that were in the script, or he did his best with mediocre material. And shouldn't Rita's blood be pooling on the floor while she sits there having her hair done? She just got stabbed. Well, Lou pulls herself together and goes out to sing another number. A guy what takes his time. Grammar teachers must just loathe this movie, although she barely sells the shock or dismay that she just stabbed somebody who went and died on her. Spider tells Lou that Chick is waiting outside in the alley, and Lou tells Spidey to let Chick wait in her room. After all, no one's attacked her for at least 5 minutes. She's due for an attempt in her life again. Lou sings Frankie and Johnny. He doing me wrong is a lyric in that song. Who are the she and him and she done him wrong? Chick shoots Flynn right outside Lou's dressing room, which is bad, of course, but partly because he interrupts Mae West's AFI-nominated song, which should not have been an AFI-nominated song. Cummings and a slew of cops charge in, gunshots and all, and Lou figures out that Cummings is the Hawk, an infamous federal agent. Chick is still desperate and is going to kill Lou like he said he would, but Cummings and the cops cut him off and take him away, boys. Take him away, toys. But why let a little thing like police custody stop you from making your situation worse? You just go ahead and backhand the woman right in front of them, or try to anyway. I guess he's in for a penny, in for a pound. Cummings takes Lou away, seemingly to jail too, but instead he tries to hold hands with her in the back of the carriage. She is not interested in loving him up now. She doesn't like low-down, dirty undercover agents. Well, I don't either, but if Cary Grant in his late 20s wanted to hold my hand, I think I get over my anti-undercover bias in a big hurry, and my heterosexuality. And apparently Cary might have indeed wanted to hold my hand. Of course, Lou changes her mind when he proposes right there in the cab. Old movies were so bad for this, marrying people off who had spent 12 minutes together in their entire lives. Does he know any fucking thing about her? I maintain that getting married so impulsively in movies was code for, we can't sleep together unless we have a license first, and then we're gonna fuck. So the bombshell and the heartthrob kiss, and the movie ends. Thank Buddha, I thought that hour would never end. You can tell I didn't connect with this one. I already said a few times that I didn't laugh, but I think the bigger problem is that the tone is all over the place. If you want to do a crime story, you can make a comedy too, and even a love story. Out of sight, there you go. But Sherman and the writers and even the actors fumbled all of that. So then we just have the crime story and mostly really shitty people, none of whom I rooted for. I guess Lou is supposed to be a hooker with the heart of gold, but Mae West's emotional range ran from A to A-. I guess she cared a little bit about Sally and was nice to her for 5 minutes, but that was in just one scene. And then Sally was turned into a prostitute. Did Lou use any of her influence to help Sally out? She maybe could have. Did she even try? She didn't try. We talked earlier about the production code and how it was strict as hell. The National Legion of Decency was formed in 1933, and the code began in 1934, and this movie was supposedly one of the reasons they created the Legion at all. Some countries passed on letting it see the light of day within their borders, plus it was banned in some parts of America too. I don't think this movie was worth all that hubbub. And I bet when people heard it was banned in certain countries, they wanted to see it even more. So that's what always happens, right? It's banned. Oh, I gotta see it now. My parents don't want me to see it. The older generation doesn't want me to see it. I gotta see it. So a little bit about the cast. Mae West was making only her second film here. She also did I'm No Angel the same year, also with Cary Grant. Then she and W.C. Fields made My Little Chickadee several years later. By the way, I can't fault West for her confidence and her I don't give a damn attitude. She didn't make a lot of movies, but she was still working into her 80s when she made Myra Breckenridge in the 1970s. This charisma and talent that others see in this woman, to quote Aaron in The Office, I don't get it. Somehow West was 15th on AFI's top 25 greatest actresses of all time. You may have heard me rant about this before, but I'm going to do it again. AFI's stars list was the worst one they ever did. Their criteria was you have to be dead or to have started your career before 1950. That's fucking stupid. Were they just worried that voters would ignore older actors? The actress list would absolutely have been way more modern people. For example, there's no Meryl Streep on there. There's no Susan Sarandon, Jodie Foster, Michelle Pfeiffer. None of them are included because they started their careers long after 1950 and they're still alive even now. But it's mind-boggling that Mae West is 15th. It just galls the living shit out of me. Of course, the list came out before Kate Winslet and Cate Blanchett could have reasonably been included, although they sure would be now, so let the AFI slide on those two. But if this movie is any indication, and I haven't seen a lot of her films, Mae West had no range at all. I can see how her material could be funny. She just didn't pull it off. And she wasn't half as sexy as this movie says she is, although I admit that's a taste thing. You might think my visual appreciation of Rosario Dawson and Monica Bellucci is absurd. So if she isn't really a good actress, and she isn't objectively as hot as the sun, then why is she so revered? Aaron, say it again. I don't get it. I'm sorry. I don't get it. We've talked about Cary Grant a lot of times on this channel, including in AFI movies, Bringing Up Baby, The Philadelphia Story, and North by Northwest. We've also discussed The Awful Truth, Notorious, His Girl Friday, and The Bishop's Wife, which we covered just last month. Charade is probably going to get covered at some point this year too, perhaps very soon. It's all Cary all the time. Ellen Moore plays the criminally inclined Chick Clark. Moore started acting way back in 1909 and had over 280 credits in his resume. The 1937 A Star is Born was his final picture. Gilbert Roland is Sergei. He played Gaucho in The Great, The Bad, and the Beautiful, which Bev and I reviewed just last year. Roland acted over 140 times, including in the Errol Flynn flick, The Seahawk. Raffaele Attiano was in several prestigious pictures, including Grand Hotel the previous year. And then I mentioned Spider, the actor there, Dewey Robinson. He'd been in A Midsummer Night's Dream. No, he was going to be in A Midsummer Night's Dream a couple years after this movie came out, and many other pictures. I didn't look him up. I just glanced at him a second ago on the IMDb, and that's his first credit. Lowell Sherman directed. He was behind the bullhorn for about a dozen films, including Morning Glory, which won Katharine Hepburn an Oscar. Harvey Thew and John Bright wrote it. They wrote the far superior crime story, The Public Enemy, which Bev and I covered in 2021. Okay, let's finish this thing. I don't think She Done Him Wrong is funny. The crime story might be okay if that was more of the focus than attempts at comedy, and anyone who wants to claim Mae West was a great movie star can just agree to firmly disagree with me. Even if someone wants to say, but she's such a boss who doesn't take shit from nobody. Okay, it seems like she's in charge of her life, although look how often people try to kill her. The woman was 5 feet tall. If anyone wanted to fuck her up, they were going to, no matter how much wisecracking sass she spewed at them. So that was more bravado than real confidence. In 2 weeks, I'm planning to cover Redford and Streisand in The Way We Were. Bev and I will be back in 3 days when we cover another Coen Brothers flick, and her last pick in the 8th annual Month of Bev, Inside Llewyn Davis, and that's a good film. Look for this podcast on YouTube. We've been posting all of our 2023 episodes there. The ones Bev and I do together have had about 10 minutes of bonus footage with us on camera, talking about corrections for that week's podcast and talking about new movies we've seen. We even discuss listener comments sometimes, and then the podcast in its entirety plays out after that. My solo episodes go up on YouTube too, but those are accompanied by just our graphic. So if you just listen to all of this, you'll get the exact same thing on YouTube if you look up this episode. Go check it out anyway. Help me grow the channel. At HYES Ellis to find our main page on the tube. You can tweet me. I'm at MovieFiend51. And you can tweet Bev too. She's at Bev Ellis Ellis. Our email address is haveyoueverseenpodcast@gmail.com. Tell me I'm wrong and you love this movie and I should have shut up a long time ago. Please subscribe, favorite, share, tell your movie-loving friends about us, and also help us grow the YouTube channel by looking at the extra content we've been putting on there. And don't forget about our sponsor. Go to sparkplug.coffee/HYES to get 20% off some great Java. As for me, I'm going to see if I can get a job at the Bowery and sell my curves for jewels. I've got some curves. I'm not a great singer either, and it's unlikely I get a lot for selling my body. But if Mae West could do it, then why not me too? And cut.